so today I'm building in Henford on Bagley. I'm building it on the nature park lot, the one that's like way far back in Henford, and you can't change the lot type. And if you do change the lot type, it glitches out and it remains this sort of lot. Like at one point, I remember I built a 100 baby challenge house on here when I was doing that challenge a couple years ago, and it just messed up my game so bad because the game doesn't register that this lot is something else when you're changing it to something, or changing it to a residential. At least I don't know about anything else, but I decided that I wanted to build some sort of landscape with a castle-like structure. Maybe it's just been here for a while and they turned it into a, I guess it's a national park lot, right? So I kind of just laid out where I wanted a little pond to be, and I didn't fill it with water yet. I guess I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to build this as. This one kind of took me a lot of just placing things down and trying different things out until it came together. And so you see, I have the little pond, and then I have the front of the build where this is kind of like you enter the park. And I don't know, I was thinking of when you enter a park and there's a ticket booth type thing, but as a castle with castle walls, that's not, there's no ticket booth or anything. It's literally the middle castle bit where it has the fences and the walkway above, that ends up just having a fountain in it, and then the other two towers has different sorts of objects that you might need for a wedding venue. Because last minute I had placed down an archway, and I was like, yeah, this lot would be cute for a Sims wedding, so let me put an archway down. And then I was like, okay, but you know how annoying it is when you plan a wedding for your Sims and you get to the lot and there's no kitchen or anything, and you need a wedding cake and there's nowhere to bake the cake and things like that. So these two towers in the front are more catered towards making sure that there's a kitchen space in this build. There's a little bar, and there's also a flower arranging table in one of the upper towers, and then the one where you have to kind of walk across the pathway over to the next tower. That tower has a lot of nectar making stuff in it, just because I was running out of ideas. I'm gonna be honest, the interior of this build, I feel like it's lacking by a lot. It was very lazily done, to be honest, because they're the spaces are so tiny, and I was just losing motivation because I put so much effort on the exterior of the build. And this entire build anyway, it was more centered around the landscaping and just creating something that would look nice as a park in the game. I wasn't really focused on what I wanted the interior to be, but I do end up building a main structure behind these two towers. And inside there is mostly just there's a bathroom, there's, a couple places to sit, and then upstairs, there's, a chess table, a bunch of plants, and an easel. So there's some activities for your Sims to do on this lot, but it wasn't, completely focused for an interior. I kinda just placed stuff in there so your Sims had things to do. I didn't end up putting a toddler potty in, which maybe I should have, because in one of my other build videos when I was doing a community lot, I was like, yeah, I wanted to make sure I put a toilet in. But I guess I could always add that before I upload it to the gallery. I haven't uploaded it yet. I forget sometimes to upload. And sometimes I'll really forget, and it takes someone commenting about wanting to build, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me go and upload that before I forget. But I still haven't taken the screenshots fully, so I can add a toilet in there too and upload it when I end up doing that. The screenshots are gonna be difficult to take. I attempted to take the screenshots, but the build is such a weird shape inside, and there's all these roof pieces, and if you look up in camera mode, it just looks like a mess. So it's visually it doesn't look that great from the interior, if you're, like, looking closely in tab mode, I do not recommend doing that. It's, like, not gonna look that great, but the back of the build is really pretty. I think it's my favorite part of the build, and it's also what I used as the thumbnail for the build as well. The front of it is kinda boring, and I realized that when I was, like, working so hard on the back, and I think it's because the back, I mean, 1, there was a lot of space for me to work with, so I was able to do a lot more, but also, like, the lighting looked better from the back of the build, where, like, the front, it's, like, not as sunny, it's a little dreary, but the back is, like, fully, like, lit up because of just how the angle of the sun is, on this time of day, and so it, like, I don't know, it was easier to put in all the little details and like, it was, like, easier for me to like, and I used a lot of the stuff from the Castle Estates kit. I think I used, like, m I think all of the exterior on the walls and all the details, I think, like, if not 100%, like, 90% of the details and, like, all the build items are from the Castle Estates kit, except for, like, the ivy, there's no ivy that comes in the castle kit, so that's, like, different packs, but more so, like, the structure of it is all castle estates, so, like, the wallpaper is, all the fence pieces are, the columns, the spandrels, um, the windows too. I don't think I use any other windows besides the ones that come in the kit. It is a really good kit, even though it doesn't have a lot of items in it, and that was, like, my main complaint about it when it came out, was that we didn't get a whole lot of items for it. We did got, like, no interior items for it, which would have been nice to have. Um, but, like, the items that we did get, they're really useful, and it, like, takes a lot of the, like, mental work out of the build, because you could kind of just, like, you're like, "Oh, I know that all these pieces are gonna look really beautiful together," and, like, and your builds don't look exactly the same when you do that. I feel like a little bit in the front of the build kinda reminded me of some of my other builds that mostly uses the castle kit, but I feel like the back of it is, like, very different from what I've, like, built with it so far, and I think it is because I used a lot more of, like, the columns and the spandrels to create some details. I also did these 2, octagonal tower pieces that I wasn't really sure what I was doing with, but I thought it'd be interesting to have some sort of different, like, height dimension on the lot, and it took me a long time to get it symmetrical. I don't think everything ends up being perfectly symmetrical back here, but, I tried my best, and you could see I moved the stuff around so many times, and then I realized that I could pick up a whole room using the tools at the top instead of, like, trying to fight with the controls and, like, overlapping everything. So it did help a little bit. And these towers are like half walls, half fence pieces with columns, so it's like a little bit open. End up putting an archway in like later on. I think I even cut it out of the video because it was like so messy, like all the camera movements. But I do put like buffet tables in there. It would have been cute also to have chess tables in there if it would fit, like, that would be, like, a nice place for your Sims to play chess, but I ended up putting buffet tables in because I was like, "Okay, like, if your Sim is having a wedding, it would be nice to have that sort of table around," and I didn't know where to put it. So I put it in there because it also, like, doesn't take away from the landscape and just, like, the atmosphere of it by having random objects around. There are some random objects that I place around just for activities, like, there's a random swing set that, like, maybe doesn't make the most sense, but I placed it somewhere where there was empty space because I figured that, we needed some sort of activities on this lot or it would be boring and you'd have no reason to bring your Sims here, especially for, like, kids, so and I didn't wanna use, like, the big playground stuff. I could have done, like, monkey bars too, like, the really cute ones that came with that, like, romantic garden stuff pack. I literally bought that stuff pack just for the monkey bars because it's really pretty and has, like, ivy climbing up it. That would have been cute on this lot, but I didn't even think while I was doing it. I ended up using, I don't even know what swing set it is, but it's one of, like, the newer swing sets that came in a pack. It's like my mind loses track of items nowadays with how many packs there are. I was trying something different with this fountain. I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll try lowering it into the ground a little bit and creating, like, a pathway around it and maybe putting rocks." but I fill it up as a pond, and it's like I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like that wasn't really important, but I was just trying something different for this area because I have so much space to work with. I feel like the hardest part of doing the landscaping back here was the terrain paint, and I had like laid out some terrain paint and it immediately all deleted. And you'll see my panic in the video in like a little bit where I like lay out all of it and then suddenly it all just disappears like all at once. Like I didn't click anything, I didn't think. And then it was all gone. I tried to undo, but nothing was working. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna have to redo this. And so I changed the terrain paint like, a lot. Like, I start with a cobblestone path, and then it all deletes, and then I'm like, "Oh, okay, let me do dirt instead," and so I ended up doing a dirt path, and then I layer some of the cobblestone over it, and then other pieces have some cobblestone without the dirt, I think, but yeah, it's just, like, terrain being is so, like, strange in this game. I've never encountered that. I think it was because I was holding down and I wasn't like taking breaks in between, like placing the path out like I usually do. Like I drew it all in like one go without lifting the mouse. And so it just like all deleted, which like it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't intricate or anything. I was just like confused and discouraged. But yeah, you see, I'm like trying out different things, but I felt like that dirt just didn't fit in. And so I'm like going through and trying to find a stone that I think would look nice. And I was like, oh, that like cobblestone is pretty and it's like not too bright, where a lot of the stones in this game are like way too bright and like overexposed. And see, like that looked nice. And I could imagine that with all of the plants. And then you see my panic where I'm like, what just happened? That's never happened to me before. It would have been simple to just redo it, but I took it as a sign that maybe I didn't like it as much because I felt like I usually do dirt paths and I'm like, maybe I just need to stick to what I'm used to doing. And so I used this dirt and I usually don't use the lighter dirt very often. And I think it looks really nice. But yeah, I'm bringing back in some of the cobblestone now. And I had imagined a lot of different, like, intricate flower arrangements back here, but my brain just could not handle that, and so I mostly just use that mixture of wildflowers, like, with the orange and the whites, all around, and I do use some of this, like, blue lower flowers. Those sorts of flowers remind me of The Sims 2 mostly because in The Sims 2, I used to use the ground flowers like that where it's like more flat to the ground, and I never really used them in The Sims 4. Like this might be one of like 1 out of 10 times I've probably used something like that. I just felt like maybe it would like fit in a little bit with this. And yeah, I'm layering some of the cobblestone in to make it look like it's a mixture of stone in the dirt. And like maybe it looks a little bit better than all the cobblestone before. Right now, it definitely looks like, it looks a little weird and a little harsh because there's nothing around it, but I, like, move around a little bit in this video where I'll, like, do the back and then I'll, like, be back in the front to, like, work on this, and so now I'm placing windows in, and I mostly use the, like, skinny windows from the Castle States kit because I thought the other ones just, like, took away from the build a little bit. It was, like, too intense, but I do use them on the side because I felt like they fit perfectly over there, and, like, the roof probably looks so weird from, like, certain, like, interior shots, but I think that it looked nice on the exterior, and I feel like it's worth it, and I have, like, 2 staircases leading up. I end up having dirt pads, like, over in the front too, leading, and I do place some of the debug stepping stones around on the dirt path later on too, as well as in the back of the build, and I just, like, am mostly just trying to fill up some of the landscape so it doesn't look completely empty. This is a huge lot for this. Like, I'm not used to like building on such a large lots lately. Usually I pick one of the smaller ones so I don't get overwhelmed with like what I'm doing. And I'm trying to layer terrain paint here because every time I see people do the like layered dirt, it looks so natural and nice. And I really wanted to try And I feel like it's not as good as other people's, but you gotta start somewhere, right? So I, like, gave it a shot, and so I have some darker dirt on, like, the outside lining the lighter path to make it look like it's, like, blended into the world around it a little bit. I've been feeling so nervous to do this voiceover for the last few days because I've been like not feeling the best. I've been feeling pretty down. And so I was like, oh my God, how am I going to show up for a voiceover? And then I sat down and I like yapped for 15 minutes, which is like longer than I normally yap at a time in these voiceovers. Like, normally I'm like, oh, I like start running out of what I'm saying and I kind of forget what I'm saying. And then I have to like stop the recording or else I'm just gonna be just, like, unsure and silent for, like, a minute, but that'll only happen 15 minutes in somehow. But, yeah, I wanted the landscaping to be more, like, intentional, but I didn't end up doing that. Like, I didn't want it to be overgrown at first. I wanted, like, flowers lining every path, and I wanted it to be, like, arranged in a way where it's, like it was, like, professionally done, but I'm not a professional, so I couldn't do that. I was just like, "Oh, okay." So there's gonna be some tall grass around, that's just what we're gonna have to do because I don't have it in me to arrange a whole bunch of flowers right now, and you see that, like, at this point, I'm just like, there's a lot of space, and so I make another little pond over here because ponds take up enough space, and then I'm like, "I'll put trees around it, it's okay." I have a deck that goes over it too that has, like, outdoor seating tables around it where, like, your Sims could just eat. I put some barbecues kind of near those smaller towers after. As for, like, the colors of this build, I mean, most of it's just, like, light gray stone, and then I have the lighter dirt, and the flowers are, like the low ones are this, like, blue hydrangeas, I think? I know that I definitely mispronounced that. I stumble over my words, but then, like, the wildflower mix that has, like, blues and oranges in it, and that's, like, it for the colors of the build. It's, like, a very lighter color palette, like, with more stone elements than usual. I feel like most of my builds have a lot more wood in it, but this is a castle build, so not a lot of wood in this one. Um, yeah, I, like, go through the different water to see which ones I wanted, but I felt like the, like, really clear one, like, the sparkly one looked the best and fit in the most. Like, normally I use the pond scum one or the one that has, like, all of the algae on it, but I felt like maybe that was too much for this. So I, like, made it look a little bit cleaner and more like you could swim in it if you wanted to. Maybe even, like, if this wasn't The Sims, people would swim in those. Probably not, though. Um, but yeah, I, like, pick out some barbecues and stuff, so I use, like, the ones that came in base game that was, like, updated later on, and I just put them out there. So it's like, you probably need your Sims to be able to barbecue on this because I was also treating it like a park, but the national parks don't have the same requirements as regular parks. It, like, doesn't really require much at all. I think it just requires, like, a bathroom maybe? Maybe even not that. I don't know what the requirements were, but it was pretty simple. And this is now the tower area. I didn't know where I was gonna put the doors. I didn't want to take away from the path or, like, have to change what I had already done. So, I already had a path leading to the side of the tower anyway. I was like, "Okay, I could just move some of the landscape slightly and put stairs over here and have a door." But I couldn't get a door on the other tower on the exterior without, I feel like, having to do too much, like, changes. And so you could only get to the other tower, like, when you you have to go up ladders, and it's like so you go into the side of that tower, then you have to go up the ladder into the kitchen, and then you have to go out the door and walk across that, like, walkway to the next tower, and then you have to go up and down ladders to get to either one of those. So that's, like, the only way to get through, which might take a little while for your Sims to walk through, but that's just how it had to be for this build specifically. And I was trying to just make the pond in the back a little bit more natural, so I was putting some stones around. Normally I add more greenery to like the stone area, but I had done so much already. I thought this video was gonna be way longer. Like I thought this was gonna be like 40 minutes because I felt like this took me so long to do, but then when I put all the videos into my editing software and I sped it up a little bit, I was like, "Oh, like this is going to just be a normal length video for me. It's not going to be too much." And like the exterior, I'm like 20 minutes into the exterior of the part of the video, and I still haven't really done any interior yet. And that's cuz the interior is very simple and I really didn't decorate it too much. And so I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense then." Like 20 minutes for this and then probably like how long is this video anyway? Like there's not that much more left in it, I don't think. I can't see the exact time and how I'm watching it while I'm doing the voiceover, but it's probably like 8 minutes of interior, probably not even that. But yeah, I'm placing different flowers around. I put a fountain towards the back because I didn't know what to do. I do put some more, like, I do put the wedding arch from Cottage Living. I put 2 of them because I have one that is, like, centered with the pathways, like, leading up to the build because I thought it visually looked nice, but I was unsure if it would be functional because, like, The Sims and, I didn't wanna have to, like, have 2 Sims married to try and, like, play test it. So I put another archway just in case, so there's 2 options if the other one doesn't work. But also, like, if you want your Sims to marry by the trees instead of on the pathway, then there's 2 options anyway. The upstairs in this, it's like I like the upstairs in here. I feel like it's simple and you don't really need too much. You just need a couple of activities for this sort of build. I was like just struggling with the screenshots because of how the roofing was looking. And so I have to like really try again to like take nicer pictures. And when I had started up my game, I just couldn't. Like sometimes when I open Sims, I just need to immediately close it and then come back another day. That's just how it goes sometimes. So I go back to doing some of the exterior, but like not a lot. I go pretty much right back into the interior right away. Because I was like looking for stuff to place and I was like, oh, this will look good outside. And that's what I was talking about with the wedding arch. Like, I feel like it looks like it would function, but you never know because there's flowers underneath it, and the flowers might get in the way of your Sims. Um, you just can never tell unless you try, and I'm like, "Let me just place some." Okay, I don't place the other one around yet. Maybe I do that later, like, when I come back to the build, I might end up placing it again. I do, like, fix the flower arranging tower after too, which I didn't record, but it was just, like, a flower bench and then flowers on the floor, and I was like, "Megan, this is so lazy, you cannot keep it like that," and so I just fixed it a little bit by putting some crates up there, and I put the flowers off the floor, and I put them on the crates because I was just like, "Okay, at least that feels a little bit more intentional." Instead of clearly the last room I do is just me putting stuff on a floor and not even bothering to find a table to put them on. And so I like fixed it when I went back because I was just like, that's like too much. You need to do something about that. And even the decor down here, it's, like, very simple. I didn't put too much effort into it, but I just, like, mostly decorated the walls. I felt like that was enough. It is a little bit scary not having windows down there. Maybe I could have put some windows in the bar area. Um, but I was really just trying to fill up the space with stuff that you probably needed. My main priority was just the kitchen, and I didn't want like too fancy of a kitchen. I just wanted the stuff that you would genuinely need to bake a cake. So there's a stove, a fridge, a counter, and then a sink to clean stuff, and a garbage can up there. And that was all I had. And then this part is just storage. I figured, oh, okay, like no one would walk through the kitchen to get to other activities. And so I was like, okay, I'll have this be like the storage room for like the kitchen and the bar. And I feel like it made sense to have the nectar stuff then. So that's where they make all the wine or nectar, as you may say, and like bring it to the bar because I didn't think that like your Sims who are just visiting would go through like all of the like private areas of the community lot, I guess. So I didn't want that to be where more activities were. And there is the nectar thing there though. And so that's at least helpful if you don't have a nectar thing and you want your Sims to learn the skill, then your Sims can walk through the kitchen and go to the other tower. But yeah, I'm like just placing some stuff around in like these areas, like a little table. And I feel like that's all you really need. It feels like a lobby area where you wait. Oh yeah, there's the other wedding arch. But this is like pretty much the end of the video. Do the top tower and then I'll get into the screenshots. I still need to take them. So I'm kind of like trying to wrap it up so that when I get there, I'm not talking too much. And here are all of the screenshots. I showed some exterior ones as well as the floor plan for the build because I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get any interior pictures. I got some, like, it was really hard to take pictures of this build though, but you could see that I like added the flowers on top of the crates. So it's not just vases on the floor of the build. And it was a little bit difficult because of how like small the rooms are and like the clipping in of the roofs, but it worked out in the end. But yeah, that's the whole video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.